Welcome back to more Love Bakudan. Here we are. I heard a front door being opened with a loud slam. Was that the mobster woman back or something? I had to leave you all at a cliffhanger. But I have a feeling it's the person we've been trying to contact for so long. Once I click on the window so that my buttons can work, we will continue. As the bell of the store almost flew off of its hinges, I heard Sei announce perfectly just who it was that had rushed into the store. Yuki! What are you doing here? My shoulders stiffened in shock at the sound of her name. Could it really be the infamous Yuki? A set of high heels clicked their way across the floor of my store, and I heard something being slapped down on the counter before where Sei was standing. Haruka's back. Where is she? Yuki, hold up a sec. I had to see the news on a flyer. I had to see that she was back on a goddamn flyer. Say, are you kidding me? And judging from how you're here right now, you knew? You knew and you didn't. Yuki, would you just hold on? She's trying to... I knew that was absolutely my cue to return to the front of the shop. And walking out from the entrance of the storeroom and rushing towards the front counter, I finally made my reappearance. I'm right here, Yuki. I'm here. Yuki and I stood a couple of meters apart as we looked right into the other's eyes for the first time in half a decade. Jeez, will I get to finish a sentence? No. Haruka. You know what? I give up. Oh, there you go. Just finished a sentence. I couldn't believe just who I was looking at. I couldn't believe it. I can't believe it. Yuki Miyagi. In the time we'd been apart, it was clear to see that she had blossomed into a truly beautiful woman. Her hair was so much longer than I remembered it, so much more pristine. Her curves were so much more noticeable, so to speak, in all the right places. I was amazed. I couldn't believe my eyes. She'd become the epitome of beauty. Had I always been this dense? I mean, had she always just looked this damn beautiful and just didn't see it? Haruka. She repeated my name again, but choked before she could finish whatever sentence she was going to say. Her eyelids flickered in anticipation before her voice stopped short of her words. Her emerald gaze looked at me with such adoration, or maybe longing, scorn. Maybe it was all three. I'd never really experienced anything quite like this. The authenticity of her emotions were filling the air with each breath, and the rawness of my own were becoming inflamed by that too. Standing here before her as I watched her gasping for breath like she'd run here at full pelt. Oh, speaking of running, I had a really cool news story today. I was watching this YouTube video today. There's this guy who has this superhuman ability to run like hundreds of miles without getting tired. It's actually insane. Because of the way the body builds up lactic acid as you run, that's what makes your muscles tired and sore and stuff, and that's what normally stops people from, being able to run forever. This guy, his body could just get rid of it really fast, so it didn't really build up that much. It's pretty nuts. Okay, I know that was completely off topic, but I thought it was cool, and I'm sharing my knowledge with the world. I felt a myriad of things washing over me. I especially felt the horrendous guilt from not telling her sooner about my return, even though I tried. I did try. We tried to call you. You came back, Haruka. You came back and you didn't tell me. Oh boy, I knew this wouldn't go well if she found out from one of the flyers. Somehow I just knew this would happen. Listen, Yuki. I'm so flustered, I don't even remember your name. No, you listen. Do you know how terrible it feels finding out that someone you valued once so much that it broke your heart when they left has returned to the town through a fucking flyer? I deliberately didn't tell you or Sei. She thought I was a burglar. Talk about a surprise blowing up in my face. This was exactly what I was afraid of. Yuki, stunned into silence by my admission, blinked twice and looked to Sei for some kind of confirmation. I could see that the elderly woman in the back were having a field day with this one. Sei, what is she... You guys need to, go upstairs or something. You're causing a scene big enough to be its own erotic novel. Haruka's telling the truth, Yuki. You didn't let either of us explain. As Yuki and I both began to calm down, I shook my head slowly and extended my hand to her from the side of the counter. Come on, let's talk in my room. I think we owe each other an explanation. As Yuki stared at my hand for a moment, she bit her lip before tentatively looking away as she held it. Okay. Her palm was so warm, probably from all the anger. And so, with her hand in my own, I led Yuki upstairs. Jeez Louise, talk about dramatic. My gosh. Maybe this really is a video game. Oh, wouldn't that be wild? I haven't been up here in a long time. Tell me about it. Me neither. Okay, that was dumb. Well, this is awkward. Yuki and I were stood on either sides of the room silently and turned our attention to the view outside my window. Ah, look at that view. Found ourselves looking out together, far across the ocean view. Felt unusually calm standing here together. You could cut the tension with a knife. The sunlight outside was peeking through the white of the clouds. I got an important message on my phone. No one loves me. And the vibrant blue of the sky above was reflecting into the ocean like a vast, unending pool. One that stretched to the ends of the earth and beyond. Yuki looked so radiant, standing before the window beside the front of the room. She was looking out as she leant against the windowsill, folding her arms and crossing one tight-clad leg over the other as she rested against it, looking illuminated and picturesque. Her eyes looked so sad, even as she continued looking out across the water before her. I couldn't help but wonder just what it was she had on her mind. Was it really just me, or was there something more? The breeze from outside carried the noise of excitable children rushing around on the sands. Downstairs, I could hear Say jovially making conversation with the nosy old ladies who had been parked up in the store all day. The so-called red light district was definitely a very different beast during the day. It was almost arguably family-friendly. Arguably. Don't read any of the books. Provided the families didn't actually, go into any of the establishments on the strip anyway. The silence was thick between Yuki and I. I could feel the 1,000 words desperate to be said, the 1,000 words unable to be articulated. We both had 1,000,001 reasons to speak. I took a deep breath as I closed the door behind me with a soft click and leant against it as I slipped my hands into my pockets. A beautiful view, isn't it? Feels like it's been an age since I last saw a sight like this. Hard to believe just what this place becomes when the clock strikes 9. Yuki? You really came back. I wish you'd let me and Say finish telling you downstairs, but I suppose it's much better to actually get to explain myself somewhere private. What? Why didn't you say something? Anything? Like I said, I didn't tell you or Say. My original plan was that I was going to surprise you both. It was supposed to be a good thing. I knew I took a risk putting the flyers out like that, to be honest. You were the only thing I was thinking about. Oh, that's good. Being is good. I never wanted you to find out like that. Haruka. But this was going to be my opening day. I had advertised. I tried to call you. You don't have an answering machine. What am I supposed to do? Stopped by my emotions, I swallowed the lump in my throat and took a deep breath. I was here now. No point in running away from it. Hey, maybe talking about all this would help a little. I guess there's only one way to find out. You know, I felt really nervous about coming back here. You did. I mean, you don't get nervous about anything, though. Huh? I get nervous about plenty of stuff. You know that. I just, I'll show it on my face like an iron wall. Remember all those times I used to cry on you about tests? How could I forget the visual of you throwing rocks over my window in the middle of the night, begging me to help you cram for them? See, and all those times where your phone got taken off you in school and I'd be chivalrous enough to go and get it back? Now that was scary. If Coach Sappho had caught me, we'd have both been roasted alive. You got me there. It's easy to forget how confident you usually are. Suppose now that you mention it, there were plenty of instances of your nerves, so I take it back. Smiles, thank God, she's happy. At least I think she is. I was nervous about coming back to Akiyama for so many reasons. I mean, Grandma just passed away too, I mean, it's been a very difficult couple months, It's been really crappy, actually. Your grandma passed away? Haruka, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Wait, say I didn't tell you. Well, Yuki trailed off. I began to realize that she probably asked Sei not to talk about me. Something inside me felt a little hurt at that idea. Oh, right. Well, anyway, I was nervous about coming back because of how much pressure I felt whenever I thought of Akiyama. Running a family-owned business, moving out from my parents' place for the first time, seeing you and Sei again. It was scary, and a large part of returning was to a life my parents openly did not approve of. I mean, are they really alright about you coming here? Oh yeah, we worked it out, but the biggest way for me coming back was you and Sei. Yuki looked at me with a much more straightforward expression on her face when I said that. It was almost as though she couldn't believe I'd kept her in my thoughts all this time. As though when I moved away, even if we talked afterwards, she resigned herself to not being a part of my life any longer. Shuffling awkwardly before me and looking away, her voice was quiet. Why? You seemed like you were doing just fine without us. I felt a flickering ember of anger suddenly erupt inside me. What do you mean, why, Yuki? Do you know how upset I was about leaving? About the way you didn't even show up to the station to say goodbye? Oh, that's not a good thing. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. Both Yuki and I had trouble articulating our emotions, even if one of us did it much more than the other. I regained control of my emotions before they spiraled out of control. Look, I'm not blaming you for anything. I remember back then your family was having a lot of problems too. I know you must have been stressed out of your mind. Yuki sighed wearily, and resigning herself to calming down a little from the tension, she finally let herself relax. You remember then, huh? Sadly, not much has changed on that front. I'm sorry it hasn't, Yuki, but I promise I would never just come back and leave you out of the picture. Then how to say no, Haruka? Why didn't you call me? I did call you! Yuki blinked. Huh? Wait, what? Yeah, I called you last night, but nobody answered. Were you even home? Yuki looked back at me in shock for a few seconds, before she groaned and closed her eyes in exasperation. Suddenly, an annoyed look came over her face. Oh, for the love of... God damn it. When did you call? Do you remember? What? Oh, I don't know. Sei helped me clean up yesterday to open the store today, so I think it was probably around 7. Yuki shook her head hastily in embarrassment. I'm so sorry, Haruka. That's a blunder on my family's part. I feel like such a fool. Huh? What do you mean? My mom keeps the phone unplugged pretty regularly now. That's a story for another time, but... I'm really sorry about that. That was totally my fault there. Hey, don't worry about it. Things happen, and besides, it's not your fault. Sounds like things are pretty wild over your place right now, huh? Yuki wore a bittersweet smile on her face and shook her head resignedly. You could say that, but that's enough about me. How did Sei find out you were back? You don't want to talk about your home still, huh? God, no. Just tell me about Sei, Haruka. It's fine, really. I wasn't really sure what to say to that. It was obvious that it was not fine, even if Yuki insisted it was. Alright, if you say so. Well, with Sei, it was remarkably unplanned. My dumbass left the window open when I fell asleep, so when she was coming home the other night, she thought someone was robbing the bookstore. She burst in here all guns blazing to tackle them. Needless to say, we both almost gave each other a heart attack. Always so noble, isn't she? Oh, she's always been a sweetie, that's for sure. Sweetie who scared the shit out of me my first night back here. Yuki chuckled to herself, and I felt myself smile at the sound of her laughter. That was the first time I'd heard it in so long. And that's how she found out about you? I swear that's how it happened. I was planning to call you both to tell you all about what happened, my uneventful train journey back, and so on, Give you the deets. It was gonna be, special. But life rarely ever works out the way you plan. You know, I feel pretty silly now, knowing the full story, and to think I was so ready to be heartbroken all over again. Heartbroken. I gazed upon Yuki soften noticeably, and I caught her blushing. What are you looking at me like that? I took a few steps closer to where Yuki was standing, and both of us stood with our backs straightened. Our eyes met again, though closer this time. I could see that Yuki was looking at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Hope. Hope that I was going to stay, maybe. Something that sent a tremor through my heart either way. I felt inside my chest thrumming. I really missed you. Haruka. As though she couldn't bear to look at me for much longer, she sat down against the windowsill and gently grabbed my jacket as she rested her head against my upper stomach. Yuki? I just couldn't bear it. Having you gone and not being able to see you anymore was too much. With everything going on at home, I just honestly felt like I just couldn't process anymore. It just thought it'd be easier to shut out everything, you know? I placed my hands on Yuki's shoulders as she sat and petted them quickly to indicate that she needed to stand up. I just wanted to give her the hug that we both so desperately needed. Come here. As though Yuki had been holding it all in until this very moment. Haruka. She burst into tears on my shoulder and I held her tightly in my arms. I was so happy to have reunited with her. We still had so much to talk about, so much to do, but for now, this was fine. This reunion was fine. We could say more later, once the dust had settled. My head rested against her shoulder as I stroked her back with a smile. I'd be lying if I said I didn't shed a tear or two for all the lost years of friendship. Yuki tried to remain composed too, with her head on my shoulder and her arms around my neck. She pressed her body hard against my own, as though trying to absorb my presence into her being once again. I missed you so much. I'm back now. I promise. Yuki smiled as she leaned back in my arms, placing her hands on my shoulders and wiping away the tears daintily from her eyes. Her bright, loving smile that I always remembered her forehead returned. I felt so happy suddenly. I caught her looking at me with a particular glint in her eye that I couldn't resist chasing up. Hazel, what's with that look, It's just so weird. Seeing you all grown up, you look just so... I think I'm much more handsome nowadays. You think I'm handsome too, right? Yuki chuckled again and shook her head with a smirk. I see you're still just as much of a dork as you always were with me. Hey, tell that to all the city girls back in Tokyo. They loved me, I think. I missed you. Have I said that already? Hey, I'm not going to complain about hearing it again. I really missed you too, Yuki. Like, a lot. Haruka. I imagine the old ladies downstairs thought we were having some kind of torrid affair. Yuki placed her hands over her face as I still held her in my arms and as I laughed quietly. Oh god, I'm gonna cringe with embarrassment over that outburst forever, aren't I? Maybe a little, but hey, at least we were reunited under good terms, right? That's really all... That really is all I ever wanted, so if I had to have a silly outburst to do it, then so be it. That's the spirit. So far, everything was going extremely well. I guess we better go and apologize to say, huh? Oh yeah, whoops. Oh god, how embarrassing. She's a trooper. Always putting up with a lot from the two of us. I lost count of how many times I got her killed during co-op games when I was in Tokyo. I wish I could have played them with you. Not that I'm any good. Hey, I've seen you play fighting games. You're scary, the meanest friend... What? Friend Chaos, the side of Akiyama. Is that Francis, maybe? I don't know. What can I say? I can only aspire to be as wealthy as her someday. You're right, though. She always has endured a lot of our drama, but I think it's also a lie to say that we don't put up with anything from her either. Besides, isn't that what a good friendship really is, or a good relationship? Allowing your most valued people to reveal their faults, but still loving them anyway? You haven't changed a bit. I laughed softly to myself, and as Yuki and I took each other by the hand, I led her back down to the shop floor. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut the video short. I know you're wanting a longer video, but unfortunately I have quite a busy night planned, so I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to record any much longer. But I'll record an extra long episode for Friday to make up for it, so there you go. If you enjoy Love Bakudan, be sure to check it out on Steam. It's $20. It's available right now. So with that said, I will see you all on Friday, and have a good day, and take care.